Hi there. Today we're going to talk about how to automatically add somebody to a group in Mailchimp. But first, if you could take a second to like this video or subscribe to my channel, I'd be grateful. So why would we want to automatically add somebody to a group? Okay, so Mailchimp is now cracking down on the amount of audiences that you can have. So it used to be, I think you could have an unlimited amount of audiences before, and now in some cases you can have one. So it's really important to segment your list to, number one, target who you're communicating to. Number two, make sure that they're getting the information that they need based on what they've asked for. And number three, to keep a really well-organized list. So let's say we create an overall group of events, and we have 3 events listed, and each event is different, so it's got its own landing page. And depending on what landing page they land on, it's automatically going to put them in there without them having to use those toggle buttons. So this works for events. It'll work for downloads. So lead magnets, that type of thing, any courses that you're running. So here's a how-to video to show you how to automatically add somebody to a group. Okay, so let's say for sake of argument, you have events coming up. They might all be different types of events, or you have some lead magnets, but they're all different lead magnets. If somebody signs up on your sign-up form in Mailchimp, how do we put them onto a group into a specific category without them having to see the radio buttons where they have to choose which category? Okay, so we're going to go into our main list because Mailchimp likes us to have one list now. So we'll go into our main list and we're going to go over to View Contacts. And under Manage Contacts, we're going to go over to our groups. Okay, so I've already set a couple of them up here. But the first thing that you definitely need to have is something that gives them permission, yes or no, in the future after they've gone through whatever they're doing, whether it's an event or a series of emails or a download or whatever. Can we email them after that? That has nothing to do with whatever they've downloaded. So this is like future marketing purposes, getting them on the list. We do need to ask that permission separately. So for this one, we're going to choose a radio button. Yes or no. You can word it however you'd like. And that's that. The second one, let's go into here. Let's call these events. Okay, and we're also going to do this as a radio button, so they have the option of choosing one, and like I said, we are going to do that for them in the background. And let's say there's an event on January 1st, an event on February 1st, and then there's also a webinar on November 1st. Okay. So based on whatever form they're filling out, and it could just be an email address, it could be a bunch of other information, we want to get them on one of these things without having all of the options here to choose. So for example, if they hit a landing page that's only about this webinar and not about the January 1st event, if they fill out the information on the landing page, we want to put them in that November 1st webinar. We want to make sure that they're in that group. And likewise for the other ones. You could have it where they choose, but let's say, there's going to be some sort of landing page or event page for that specific thing, okay? Remember, these have to be radio buttons. Don't do the checks or anything like that. Make sure that they're under radio buttons. So we're going to go back to, we're actually going to go to sign up forms, and we're going to go to the embedded forms. And you can see here, this is the classic embedded form. You have the question about, would you like to receive occasional updates? Yes, please. No, thank you. Then the events listed. This is typically how the groups are, this is how they're displayed. But what we want to do is check off the webinar, because we're going to put this on a landing page. We want to make sure that they're going on the webinar because the landing page is going to be for the webinar, and we also don't want them to see this. So we want to make sure that once they filled this out, that that they are going to be put on to that one only. And you can get rid of the subscribe, or you can change that wording. So let's go down here to the code. So we have to kind of do a little bit of digging here. And the first thing that we're going to need actually is a bit of snippet code. And that is going to be style equals display none, exactly how it's written out here with the quotations and the equal sign, exactly how it's written out. So you're just going to literally copy and paste it. And we're going to scroll down. So we can see here, would you like to receive occasional updates? We can see that this is sort of like the beginning. If we look at this little, we draw a circle around this, this is sort of the beginning of that piece of it. We want to leave that one alone. We do want to give them the option of that, of choosing yes or no for that. So that stays. But then underneath that, we can see the events. And this is the grouping here that we're going to want to play with a little bit. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is make it invisible. And how we do that is the MC-field-group input group above events or above whatever the group topic is that we want to make disappear after the quotations, but still within the bracket. Hit space and then paste the style equals display none. Okay. Then the next thing we want to do is scroll down to where we see the subgroup that we want to have automatically checked off, that we want to tag them in that group as soon as they fill out this form. Okay. So webinar November 1st, this is the one we're gonna use. Now, each one of these dates or each one of these selections has two lines, and the line starts above the November 1st or above the February 1st. So this starts right here and goes to here. So what we want to do is on the very first line where it says MCE-group, and there's just note that there's two places that says MCE-group on this line and on this line. So it's going to be the first one. We're going to follow the numbers after. The number after the quotation, or sorry, right after the quotation mark after that series of numbers, but within the bracket, we're going to hit space and then just write checked. Now what we're going to do is highlight it all. There's no place to save it or anything, just highlight it all, copy it. Now you're going to want to paste it in where HTML code can go on your website. So I'm just doing this as an example. This is on my Wix site, and I've just done a sample pop-up. So this is a Lightbox pop-up, and I've got the HTML code. It's an iframe code or an iframe setting. So anywhere that you have either Squarespace or WordPress, there's always a way to put code in. So in WordPress, it's on the basic editor piece. Squarespace should have their own module or their own little edition where you can actually put in raw code. So I'm just going to paste that code in here and go to update. So as you can see, it has, it's brought in the same thing, the exact same form that we were looking at before, and except the bottom piece with the three options is not there. It's not showing. Another thing that we can do just as an aside here is if we scroll down to the bottom, instead of having subscribe here, we can actually change that. So if you want to put in, we just have to find where it says subscribe with the capital here. So let's do register now. There we go. And it changes that there. Okay. So let's test this and see if it worked. So I'm going to go over to preview. And I'm going to put in my info. I'm going to go, yes, please. And I'm going to pretend like that I've just landed on a landing page and I want to get registered for this webinar and register. So I'm going to go over to my Mailchimp. I'm going to go to the audience. I can see now I have 2 people on my list. I'm going to go to View Contacts. And under View Contacts, under Events, you can see I've signed up for the webinar on November 1st. And I've listed yes, please. So that's how we do it in the background so that they don't necessarily see. Again, you can leave it as a selection, but if you do have a landing page and it's an event with a specific separate landing page, but you want to keep under all of these events, so you can send out now emails after the fact to people who have attended, like who have registered for any event. So that's sort of the big overall grouping or a specific event. Hope that helps.